Hello everyone, welcome to the investment planning sessions of Reassemble from freefincal. I'm Pattu. This week we will talk about creating a financial plan for 27-year-old Amar and his wife who is 25 years old and is a homemaker. When I say financial plan, I'm only talking about a retirement plan. So that's just one aspect, but an important aspect of a financial plan. There are other aspects which I will not cover in this video. So let's get started with the robo advisory template which Amar has filled and sent to me. Now the inputs that are given here have to be reviewed at least once a year. So please recognize that these are only temporary. So current monthly expenses means current expenses as on January 2018. So Amar will have to review the plan in December 2018 or January 2019 and enter the current expenses at that point in time and redo the whole calculation. So that is extremely important. Most people do not recognize that retirement calculators is not a one-time use and throw. It has to be used again and again, and you must review it as and when things change in your portfolio and in your life. So Amar is 27 years old. His wife is 25 years old. So his current monthly expenses are about 40,000 rupees, and in addition to that there is an annual expense of about 1 lakh. So when I say current monthly expenses, you can exclude all in the expenses that will not last after you retire. For example, school education or EMI, those things should not be included. So only the expenses that will persist in retirement, that will still persist in retirement, should be entered. That's important. So that's 40,000 rupees for Amar monthly expenses. In addition, there's an annual expense of about a lakh, and the age at the end of this current year is about 27. That's fine, it doesn't matter, it's just January, so it's 27 now. He wishes to retire by 58, so that's 31 years away. The total average expenses, including the annual expenses, the average expenses is about 48,300. And Amar says that he can increase his monthly investments by 7% each year. Now this means that suppose he has to he can invest 10,000 rupees, then next year he can increase that investment by 7%, so 10,700, and the year after that he will increase it by an additional 7%, so it will become 11,450 and so on. So every year he will increase his investments by 7%. Just a word of caution, this is very easy to enter but very hard to do in real life. I've been trying to increase my investments at 10% every year, and I'm really struggling. Initially it was okay, but because of the power of compounding, after 10 years it has been very difficult. In fact, this year, last year, I have not increased my investments because it was too much. I couldn't handle it. This year also I did not increase my investments, but thankfully my goals have been achieved much before that. So be careful before entering a number. Today it may look easy, but it may not be so much easier later on. But Amar is just 27, so he can afford to enter 7%. That's fine. Now I have assumed a post-tax return from equity as 10% only. Please recognize that this is 10% return from equity after 31 years when he is going to retire. So nobody knows how the equity markets will be, how the country will be in 31 years. So it's better to be safe than sorry. I'm not a sales guy. I'm not going to put in 15% or 18% as some stupid salesmen do. I'm going to assume 10%. Expect less and you will be disappointed less. It's better to be safe. So only 10% post-tax. As of now, long-term capital gains are tax-free. Nobody knows how things will change. So it's better to always assume post-tax for every return that you enter in any calculation. Post-tax return expected from current taxable fixed income, that's 6%. taxable fixed income is FD, debt funds, and so on. I put 6%. Well, I don't know how that will be in the future, but let's see. So, tax-free fixed income return is assumed to be 7%. EPF, PPF, LIC returns, whatever. 7% is a very fair estimate for EPF and PPF because we are projecting into the future and we don't know how things will be. So it's 7% could even be an overestimate. So we don't know how that works. So the value of his current equity investments are about 2.3 lakhs. By the time he retires, that 2.3 lakhs will grow at 10% to be about 44 lakhs. He has got FDRD bonds, etc., about 1 lakh. That will grow to about 6 lakhs in future. His PPF, EPF, etc. is about 3.1 lakhs. That will grow to be about 25.2 lakhs at 7% return. He's too young to worry about lump sum benefits at retirement and any other amount he will get. So it's better to leave it blank. He may get a few lakhs when he retires, but he can worry about that then. There's no need to enter some money right now. His EPF contribution is 3,600, and that will grow at 7% return, which is entered here. That 7% return to about 47 lakhs. The annual increase in EPF contribution, well, some number, let's say 5%. I'll just put 5% there. I don't know if Amar has entered some number and I deleted it by mistake. I'll just put 5% now. That's the rate at which your salary will increase. So 5% every year is a reasonable increase. So you can notice that if it is 0%, this is 47 lakhs. At 5% increase in EPF contribution, look at the change in that 47. It becomes almost double. So that's huge. So that's pretty good. And the currently monthly take-home pay, this is not necessary for the calculation. Amar had entered it, so I deleted it. It's not necessary, so I don't want it. He does not have any post-retirement income. I mean, he does not have any rent or anything. If you have rent, and it will make a big difference in the retirement corpus, it will lower it down significantly. So you can enter that, but Amar doesn't have it, so that's all zero. There are 3 sources of retirement income possible. So those are the basic inputs. Now let's go to step 3. So these are the a summary of the numbers. The inflation before and during retirement is considered to be 8%. Now many people come argue with me saying no, 8% is too much. Even now it's not 8%. The government says inflation is 4%. Please look at the real inflation in your numbers. Services in India are not regulated. A single drought, a single flood will change those inflation numbers a lot. Real inflation, the ground reality for people is much higher than what the government declares. So I would say anything between 6% to 8% is safe. If you don't include lifestyle creep, lifestyle changes, then 6% is reasonable. But it's better to put 8% because suddenly you may get a lifestyle disease and you may have to spend more and so on. So it's better to always factor in sudden recurring expenses. Sudden one-time expenses you can always handle. Somehow you will find some money and handle it. But sudden recurring expenses, if it hits you, you are in real trouble. Most young people will not understand what I'm saying, probably because they have not gone through bad things. I pray that they don't, but take it from me, it's better to always be safe than sorry. So please take 8% in your calculations right now, before retirement as well as during retirement. It's always better to be safe. Now his wife is 25, so we are going to plan for retirement income for Amar up to when his wife becomes 90 years of age. So that is 31 years to retirement and 34 years in retirement. Now that's the summary. So Amar's age is 27, his wife is 25. He wants to retire by 58 in 31 years. We will plan for income that increases each year by 8%. That is the inflation assumed for 34 years after he retires. That is up to age 90 for his wife. Now, take a deep breath and let's have a look at the corpus required. Can you read how much that is? That is 21 crore 27 lakhs 30,790. That is enough to fall off the chair. Many people who have used my retirement calculators have lost sleep for days. They have had a breakdown of sorts when they see such numbers. Well, Amar should not worry because he's only 27. I have no doubts that he will get very, very close to this. Of course, when you are 45 or 50 and you have never used a retirement calculator for the first time and this is the first time you're punching in numbers, the results can be terrifying. But Amar should not worry at all. When you're young, you should not worry because the true wealth that Amar has is that 31 years to retirement. That is the age. Age is on his side. He's got the time to build wealth. Time is the most crucial factor in compounding, and he's got all the time in the world provided he starts immediately, like yesterday. So, why is the okay? Before that, why is the corpus so high? There are two reasons for that. Look at Amar's expenses. We said it's about 43,000. In about currently, the average annual expenses is about 43,000. In about 9 years, at 8% inflation, in about 9 years it will become twice, 2x. In about 18 years it will become 4 times. In about 27 years it will become 8 times. And by the time he is ready to retire, assuming he is healthy and works for 31 years and so on, there are a lot of assumptions there, it becomes almost 11 times. So by the time he is ready to step into retirement, 43,000 rupees average expenses today will become 5,25,000, and this is the inflation in the current expenses. From now to until his retirement, lot of new expenses can come, good ones, bad ones, recurring ones, one time ones, whatever. Lot of new ones expenses could come, and he has to factor that in every year when he redoes this entire calculation. So that's extremely important to factor that in. So with all that, in order to get 21 crores 27 lakhs corpus, he has to start investing about 57,500 rupees per month, increasing 7% every year. This includes his EPF or NPS or whatever calculation. We have a table below. I'll come to that. Now, many people ask, why is the corpus so high? 21 crores is too much. It's just unbelievably high. Look, I have assumed a high inflation. I have assumed 8% inflation. I have assumed low returns from equity, low returns from fixed income. If I'm a sales guy, I will assume 18% return from equity. I will assume inflation of 6% or 5%. I will assume 8% return from fixed income. Then numbers will look very rosy. I will assume 18%. There are people who assume 18% return from equity after retirement. That is the kind of bullshit that is present when it comes to advisory in India, financial advisory in India, especially retirement advisory. Please be careful. Don't fall into the trap of sales guys. So that's why the corpus is so high, because I've assumed low numbers. You can accuse me of being pessimistic, things will not. But please, if you can you guarantee that after 31 years, the returns from equity will be so high as it is now? So please recognize that you don't know the future, and the best way to plan for the future is to expect less, so you can be disappointed less. So most people are not going to agree with this. Most people are going to comment nasty things. I honestly don't give a shit. Do I look like a guy who is going to be worried about what other people think? I just do what goes in my head, and this is how I plan. And if you take my tool seriously, especially the robo template where you cannot change these settings, well, you will have to live with those numbers. But what Amar should do is to not worry about all these assumptions and start investing as much as possible today. And I am confident, in spite of all these underestimates or overestimates or whatever you want to call it, uh, I am confident that if he is disciplined and systematic in investment and risk management, he will achieve his goal. I have no doubts about it at all. Now, when you scroll down, you will see two graphs in the robo template. I will explain to them. I'll explain about them. Sorry, in the slides. The first one is the asset allocation for Amar. Right now, that 57,000 rupees that is mentioned in the calculator should be invested in a portfolio of about 60% equity and 40% fixed income. This includes his EPF, PPF, or NPS. NPS being pure and debt NPS, no equity. And he can maintain this 60-40 allocation until he is about 43 or 44. And then, since he's going to retire by age 58, he can gradually lower down the equity allocation and therefore increase the fixed income allocation. A pattern is given here. He does not have to stick to this, but it's just a guideline. And the recommended pattern, the recommended equity allocation at retirement is about 25%. He can maintain this 25% equity allocation all his life, provided he has that 21 crore corpus. 21 crore corpus as of now. He has to redo the calculation later. So provided he has enough corpus by the time he retires, he can maintain this 25% equity allocation. What does enough corpus mean? We'll come to that. So the second graph is this one. So these are the returns assumed. So I have assumed 10% post-tax return from equity. If there is any tax, we have to assume it's post-tax return. All through his life, the post-tax return is constant. This is the post-tax return from fixed income. I have assumed 7%. It all of the not all through his life, for the next 31 years. For the next 31 years is 10% from equity, at 7% from fixed income. The fixed income is a bit of a overestimate. It may not be 7% for the next 30 years. We will have to at some point. For now, 7% is okay. The next 5-6 years, he may have to lower it down to 5%. And if India truly is developed after 3 decades, I don't know. If it is truly developed, then fixed deposit returns may only be about 5%, and savings bank account returns may be about 1% or 2% only. So Amar may have to revisit that calculation. For now, we will leave it at 7% because 21 crores is too much already, too much of a shock for Amar. So let's not worry about it. Let Amar start investing. Let him see money grow. Let him see a few lakhs in his portfolio. Then he will feel a lot more confident and comfortable, and then he can lower return expectations. Most people will increase return. If they see 25% returns from equity after 6 months, they will assume that's how life will be for the next 30 years. But I hope Amar does not do that. Once he sees a little money and he feels confident, then he can lower down the expectation from fixed income. As of now, I think this is reasonable. Notice the net portfolio return, and as he changes the asset allocation, notice how the net portfolio return goes down from about 8.8% or so to about 7.8% roughly. So you are already taking into account the change in asset allocation close to retirement now itself, because that is why the investment required is so high. Most calculators do not take this into account. You are taking into account the variable asset allocation from day one. That is why the the investment required for retirement is so high. So please recognize this. It's not many people. First of all, most people don't even worry about asset allocation when they do retirement planning. Second, even if they do an asset allocation, they assume some kind of net portfolio return, and they do not change this portfolio return when the asset allocation changes, which is a big mistake. So not only should you have an asset allocation, you should also have an asset allocation that changes with time, and that change in asset allocation must be factored into your retirement calculation from day one. The robo advisory template does all this for you automatically. You don't need to worry about it. That is the reason why the numbers look so high. So you'll have to live with it. Don't worry too much about it. Ignore it and just get to work. Think about it as a guideline and don't worry too much about it. So those are the two graphs that you will see here. Now, if you go down, you will see the investment schedule. So this is Amar's age and the investment in equity and the investment in fixed income. If you add these two, you will get the 57,480 together. So this fixed income includes the EPF, PPF, or fixed income NPS or whatever. So you'll have to adjust this and maintain this asset allocation in investments every year at the, let's say in December or whenever he is free. Once a year he has to look at the value of his portfolio and rebalance it, and rebalance means reset the portfolio back to this asset allocation. So sometimes equity will do well and suddenly the 60% will become 80%. So fixed income will come down. So he has to rebalance it, which means that he has to book some profit from equity and shift it to fixed income or vice versa. That depends. Sometimes some people like me prefer to only move from equity to fixed income. That's up to Amar. He can change it. Some people also recommend not doing rebalancing for the first couple of years so that the units become old, so the taxation and exit loads become lower. That's also fine. He can let go the portfolio for the first few years, and after that rebalance at least once a year. Rebalancing is extremely important. Now, where should he invest? Now, I would suggest that he can simply use a single equity fund for now, quantum long-term equity. If he likes a managed equity fund which does not take too much risk and the volatility is low, and it has got a reasonably large investing universe. It can invest in the top 200 stocks in the BSE. So he can choose quantum long-term equity, or if he wants to reduce expenses, does not mind volatility and hope for a better return, better than quantum long-term equity, he can invest in ICICI Nifty Next 50 index fund, direct plan. Quantum long-term equity also direct plan. Nowadays we have to mention that quantum direct plan should be chosen, unfortunately. So he can choose that for equity. For now, we'll worry about it down the line when his portfolio becomes of tens or 20 lakhs or 30 lakhs. He can worry about adding one more fund and so on. That's a happy problem. Let Amar worry about that down the line. For the moment, just one equity fund is enough for him for retirement. Fixed income, he can add more to EPF. It is enough. EPF is a wonderful product. He has got EPF. He can add more to it. Just add more to it via VPF, and when he adds more to it, that will take care of his ATC tax saving as well. So no need to have one more product for tax saving and so on. So you can keep it quite simple. So that's it. Some people are saying next budget they will make the ATC 2 lakhs, maybe they will make it 25 lakhs, or maybe they will make it 1 crore. Well, if they make it 1 crore, we will see. But if they do, then you can add one more. You can add an ELSS fund, or you can add. You can put more in EPF, or it's up to you. You can play it the way you want. I mean, as long as you understand what you're doing and you're in charge of the situation, it doesn't matter. But keep it simple. Don't buy too many products. Just keep it as minimalistic as possible. That's the only advice I can give to Amar from experience. I have made those mistakes. You don't need to make those mistakes. You can keep it simple and get your goal. Now, what about post-retirement? What have we assumed after retirement? Now, for that, I need to go. There are these arrows that are confusing. Let me just go to the slideshow. I hope it comes out all right. So I have assumed that Amar will take his 21 crores and split it into 4 buckets. The first bucket is the income bucket right here. This will provide him income at 6% return. This is not fully seen. 6% return, and 50% of his corpus can be put in here. So for the first 15 years, he can happily draw money from this, increasing at 8% in a year. That is the inflation assumed, and the money will grow at 6%. The rate at which he will draw is he will first year, every month he will draw 5 lakhs, as we saw. Then next year he will increase the withdrawals by 8%, next year another 8%, and so on. The money itself can be put in a liquid fund or anything he's comfortable with. 6% I've assumed for now. These values may have to be changed when he actually retires. Then the second bucket is about 31% allocation in a low risk bucket, 8% return assumed. One more bucket, medium risk, 12% allocation, 9% return assumed. In a high risk bucket, this can be pure equity, just 7%. The others can also have equity. Total equity is 25% in all the buckets. Except the income bucket, the other 3 buckets can have equity, totally 25% in all. But this high risk bucket will have, let's say, will have only equity. Or you can add more also. You can play around with it. These are just assumptions. Don't worry too much about it. So from the high risk bucket, it's about 10% return. Every year, the retirement bucket strategy is you have these buckets, and every year you look at the growth, and if one of these buckets have grown more, then you can take some money and shift it to from high risk to the medium risk bucket, or medium risk to low risk to income bucket, or from high risk to the income bucket, whichever way. You can play around with it. It's like juggling. You can do this. I will explain more about this strategy in another video. For Amar, it doesn't matter. I'm just telling you how the robo template makes assumptions while calculating that 21 crores. So the robo template assumes that Amar will be using these kind of a bucket strategy, and he will be managing his risk dynamically like this. So that's about what I have to say with respect to Amar's retirement. Finally, will Amar be able to retire with financial freedom? This is the only question on everybody's minds, right? By now, it's almost half an hour since the video started. Will Amar be able to retire? I have no doubt that he will be able to retire with full financial freedom. Don't worry about the return assumptions. Don't worry about the inflation assumptions. Just start investing, Amar. You have time on your side. You have 3 decades of investing time on your side. Start now. All the very best to you, and catch you again in another video. If any aspect of the retirement calculation is not clear, please leave your comments and I'll try to answer them. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.